countdown. Have a good show, guys. You are live in 3, 2, 1.
From blood sacrifices and grudge kills, we're peacocking next. Spoilers coming up. Ready? Buzz us in.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Okay. Welcome, AfterBuzz TV Nation.
We gonna talk about some stuff.
As you
Crazy
can tell,
shot.
we're all shook. We just finished watching the West Coast airing of, how did they say? Trompe L'Oeil. That's tonight's episode.
Yeah, Trompe L'Oeil. Yeah, it's French words.
Yes.
But I did find out what it means.
What is it, Dave?
It means, oh my god, did I not write down? It meant like deceive the eye. And it's an art technique where they use realistic images like to make 2D images look 3D.
Like in architecture.
Yeah, to kind of like trick, try and trick your eye. So using optical illusion and to deceive the eye. And I think we know why it was called that. Yeah.
What?
Been thinking back there.
But before we go any further, let us introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm JC Rubio, and follow me over at JC Rubio TV all across the board. And to my left tonight,
I'm Joelle Monique, and I'm very disappointed. You can find me everywhere at Joelle Monique.
Disappointed.
why? We'll get into that.
We'll get into that.
Across the table.
How's it going? My name's Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D Lane, and we are live in the chat, so feel free to talk with us and each other and theories and such.
What do you guys want to talk about? I bet I know. I'm Dave Child. You can find me at mrdavechild and davechild.com. I am excited. I am happy to first get information.
Yes.
And like we're moving along with the story here. It's not delaying things. We were waiting for someone to be revealed to be a host. By the way, why would you ever watch this before you actually watch Westworld?
Yes.
But just make sure you do that because Bernard's a host.
Boom.
So.
Oh my gosh!
You just
wait,
ripped
what?
the Band-Aid off.
You did not spoilers. I didn't know that. No.
Wait.
Just kidding.
We
Oh,
also
I
have-
did it.
Everybody.
We also have to introduce our engineer who did not know of this, and he's a huge fan.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to the show.
Spoiler alert.
But I'm kidding.
Neil, what is up, my friend? How are you, man? Sorry about that. Okay.
Okay, cool. He's just
no words.
he's just not going to
speechless.
talk to us.
No worries, guys. I got a job to do, and I'm gonna do it.
Oh, look at Neil. Houston, there are no problems because Neil's in the booth.
I will say, everyone, be kind tomorrow, okay? Some people don't watch the show right away.
Yes.
Yes.
Watch out on those
Spoilers.
Facebook posts. You know, we're all going through
the
a hard
tweets.
week. Let's just make it easier and just don't reveal stuff.
Fan spoilers.
Dave, were you the one telling me that our exec producer was walking by our screen and he saw the blow-up screen with El Lazo shooting up Slim?
Yeah.
It's like, God! There was just so many
So
many
spoilers.
things
And
happening.
we haven't even gotten to the biggest one. So going once, going twice. All right.
Okay.
Talk about tonight's episode. Not just that Bernard is a host, but he's also a killer.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
Then Joelle, I want you to take the lead because I need.
Yeah, why are you disappointed? I want to find out why you're disappointed with this.
Look, okay, first of all, no, if we're going to be just honest about it, like from a writing standpoint, I'm like, this is amazing. It's a plot we kind of predicted early on
Right.
in episodes 1 and 2 where we were like,
People
oh, it
talk
could
about
be,
it.
it makes sense. Like, he doesn't seem to trust anybody, but Bernard's always around. So, no, it's a great payoff, but I love Bernard so much. He is so precious in my heart and sweet and kind and having overcome things. And to find out that not only is he a host, but the things that he's been made to do, and now the way he's kind of been tinkering and having these conversations, and it opens up a whole Pandora's box of questions. I wanted him to be flesh and blood so bad, but even though he feels kind of castrated now, I feel like we're gonna get a new revolutionary Bernard, and I'm a little excited about that.
Kind of getting a little bit ahead, but what we've seen for the preview for next week, how do you feel then that he seems to feel about what he's done? Because I was happy because I'm like, okay, good, because it would kind of be almost boring if he does it and then is like, it's gone.
When we get
It sucks that he has to be like, I did
Right.
these things, but it's more engaging as a viewer.
Oh, absolutely. And then when you look at the conversation between Bernard and Teresa before they get to the cabin, Bernard tells Teresa, we only have half of it because he programmed the other half.
Yes.
Which makes me wonder, like, And then we had that line about the host after so many like doing things so many times. Yes, after so many variations.
Yes. Repetition causes variation. Something
Yes,
like that.
yes. This feels very much like something programmed very long ago. It seems like the launch and the start of the game, which is thrilling and.
Well, they didn't say Bernard was that old though.
Well,
no, he's
that was a nod.
Yeah,
that was a hint because they had Ford did say he wasn't around when Bernard was around, which makes me think that.
Wait, Bernard wasn't around when Arnold was around.
Yeah, well, that's
You
same
just said,
same way.
Sorry, I heard when Bernard was around. I'm like, wait, what?
Arnold, yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Arnold wasn't around when Bernard was around.
Thank you. Okay.
I get them mixed up because I think they're the same person.
Well, what do you think now?
I think that I'm going with the Bernard theory.
Wow.
Where oh God, I'm messing. Bernie is I think he's a copy of what Arnold was because I think that has to be what was Dolores talking to Bernard, oh my God! Talking to Bernard in the room that we finally find out where that room is.
Yep.
That where Dolores is talking to Bernard is the room they find underneath the cabin.
I'm just gonna try to hack away at this theory because Arnold's blueprints are with those old original blueprints.
Yes.
But also, the blueprints throw a lot into question because originally he says that Arnold built them for Ford. Ford said Arnold built these for me. But they seem to be in his secret underground lair with the plans that
maybe Ford's tinkered with them after or made his own diagrams.
I've also got another theory that might be a bit too extreme, but this is if we want to open this up. I think they're always playing off the idea of the singularity.
Yes.
And I am really leaning towards the idea that Ford might even be created by Arnold himself. And that the whole park and everything, at least from Ford's perspective, is all being run by Arnold and is all part of the singularity of just machines making machines and machines are making the decision, and that's just what's happening in Westworld right now.
This makes a lot of sense to me because we know that in order for them to form teams, they have to have had the experiences, that the talking to the other hosts is practiced for them.
Right.
So if he sees the youth him repetitively, then those memories become instinctual.
Yeah,
you know what
it's
I
a
mean?
way of processing.
And also the idea of Bernard dreaming. We see him dream at the start of the episode. I'm wondering what experience, like, was he a host in the park that he pulled and brought back? But that doesn't quite make sense to me because then you would know his features.
I felt like that was just the backstory instilled into him.
That's what I thought too.
Perhaps, but he has a conversation with his wife.
But
a few episodes ago, they video chat.
Could they have made memories?
But here, there's a big tell. I'm glad you brought that up, Joelle.
Right.
In episode 3 in The Stray, when you're talking about, that's the exact episode, I believe, when Ford was giving Teddy Flood his own narrative because he needed to. Yeah. And that tell at the same time is what Ford is getting that story where he ran into his supposed ex-baby mama.
Right.
So and it was a little on the nose. It was kind of telling you slightly, yes, Dave.
Also, you got to keep in mind it was a video chat, and what was revealed in this episode especially is we've been mostly watching Westworld through Bernard's eyes.
Yes.
He's been our narrator, and I think we found out he's an unreliable narrator for a couple of reasons, and one of them is when they go into the cabin and he's looking around and there's no door. He sees no door, we see no door. There's actually I watched this scene. I watched this scene a couple of times. We see no door and he sees no door. And then when she asks about the door, then he's like, "What door?"
Yep.
And then looks over, and that was my first. Oh, he's a host.
Yeah,
that's
me
definitely
too. I was like,
yep, they're definitely.
He just said the line of like, well, they're programmed not to see it.
And I'm also glad it wasn't just that, and then we wait a few episodes until it's definite.
Oh yeah, I know.
That so I was so ecstatic when we went from that. We now know he's a host to now you're telling us he's a host. But it shows that what we're seeing, especially from Bernard's perspective, is not necessarily what's actually going on.
Correct.
So I think that maybe that telephone conference might have been just like didn't exist.
Right. Totally possible. And also let's look at the Dolores conversations. And now, that's just Ford, right?
I don't think so. I think that's actually we're seeing Arnold talk to Dolores in the past.
Now, I want to know how many of you guys are going to go back tonight after this episode and watch episodes 1 through 6 again, because now you have to watch it through Bernard's eyes. And, oh my gosh, now this all makes
this
sense.
is actually a good time to rewatch the whole season up to this point again.
You know, and so many things that happened. Of course, another thing that dropped, and we didn't put it on our topic list, Elsie as well.
Oh, right, we don't know where Elsie is.
We do not know.
And Bernard doesn't know
Elsie's
where
been
Elsie is.
taken care of.
Well, there's the weird line that they're like, she went on her leave, and you're like, whoa.
We for sure saw
that
her
is a
kidnapped,
cover up
knocked
if
up,
there's any, you know.
I don't think she's dead.
I don't think she's dead, but it was a way to let somebody else know, be like, no, she's gone.
My theory.
Like, well, I'm not gonna ask questions now.
Yeah, I think she's actually now on the side of the corporation and against Bernard and Ford. I think she was kind of recruited. I think that's what that arm was basically being like, listen, okay, now that you know, this is what's going on.
Is she with the board then?
Yeah, or she's...
Or some other...
Maybe
that doesn't
helping
make
the
sense
board.
to me, though. Why not put her back in active duty? Why have her on leave?
Because right now, it's been a day,
they don't
right?
know that. You know, like, that's what they're told, that she's on leave. And so within the park...
Right, but I mean the board. Like, if you have her, if you've told her the information, and she's a part of the system now, then why not put her back in to inform?
But she can come back.
She can come back.
Yeah.
Right now it's been a day, and what I'm saying is like we
hasn't
could.
Been that long.
I'm maybe not. Maybe we'll find her dead, but I also could see it flashing to her in some corporate office somewhere, and them being like, "Hey, listen, this is what's going on," or maybe that's Stubbs that grabbed her and is talking to her about like, "Listen, this is what's actually going on. We're trying to figure it out."
I do not think it's a positive situation.
Fans are lighting us up tonight. I mean, Windmill 360 saying she's with Arnold, but another fan, Elias, brought up the fact. What about the photograph that Bernard saw? Was that just applied to him then? The very first one with his son.
And, well, there was a photo when he gotten out of bed, and I don't know if just the lighting was dark, but when he got out of bed with his dream, it's just him.
It's just him in
You
the photo.
can't see anybody else.
Wait, what are you saying?
When he wakes up from the bad dream, in this episode, he rolls out of bed, grabs a photo, and either it was just hard lighting where I saw it, but... It looks like it's just... You only recognize his face. You do not see anyone else in the photo.
And then when he picks it up, then you see him looking at the kid.
No, I didn't...
At him and his kid.
No, there's
the
no
only
kid in the photo.
I saw, there's nobody else in the photo besides him.
Oh, no, there was definitely a kid in the photo at one point.
That lighting was super hard to see.
But there's no detail of his face.
Yeah.
No, there was. But what I'm wondering is maybe there was a shot where it wasn't there and then it was there. But I definitely saw the same kid from his dream in the photo.
Okay, when I saw it in the photo, I didn't see it. So.
Yeah, that's what I saw. So maybe I'm a host and it was created in my head. But I'm not sure.
Okay, I have one that was weird, and we were kind of started to talk about it before, though. I'm like, fine, I'll give my weird theory, because I asked you guys real quick, and then you're like, wait, no. Okay, so when, and we're kind of jumping to with Teresa and Ford and
that's okay.
Bernard. So when he was giving the explanation about the peacock and it's the intelligence and that's for the mating, I was like, where are you going with this? And then I felt this was like a very obscure way for Ford to be like mating ritual to Teresa, and I'm like, this makes no sense. Well, then clearly it's not. But it was so. I'm like, well, why? Why talk about that?
This is what I think that
and
discussion
was. Weird.
was.
I don't know. Nobody else thought it was that weird.
I didn't think it was.
I got super creepy crawly. Like, this is awkward.
What I got from that conversation is that Ford finds personality and intelligence and wit to be as superficial as like peacock feathers. As there's something that could be put upon, like a fedora at a party or something.
But it was almost like, why bother telling her this?
It's a power play.
Weird. I think it's also just to...
Power some?
I think he likes to also supervillain babble a little bit.
Yes.
It was just to reinforce the fact that Teresa wanted Bernard for some freaky deaky action as well, and he brought that up. How humans' basic need is basically to mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this I don't know. Like pure power play to me, just in that he's like, yeah, I crafted this story because I saw who you were. Right. Like, you don't impress me, you don't confuse me, you're not as slick as you think you are, and you're not the first person the board has sent. And so I knew what you wanted, and I designed it, and I gave it to you because that's what I do. I run this park.
Yeah, I think he's a bit of, he might be a host himself, but my theory. But I think even if he isn't, he is definitely a sociopath. He doesn't. He regards human life the same as these these creatures that he creates.
Well, he's some really intense slavery metaphors.
Yeah.
In this, where they're like, they're happier here under my control.
Yep.
One thing I'm curious about is like, what is the corporation wanting to get from the park? They hinted at it and they talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, what is the IP? Why do they need the IP?
Yeah, they need, well, what they need is like everything, they have every sort of information about the park is stored in the actual park, and all the information and every sort of data and the building blocks of something is in the park. And I think they want the actual, I think they're pulling a Jurassic Park. I think they want the actual technology and the and maybe the AI that's available in the park.
What if the ultimate information then is at the center of the maze, and that's what's there? If
Yeah,
that's what
which
they've
is-
been trying to collect or get a hold of, and it's all there, what if that's at the center of the maze, which makes it hard to get to?
Am I just looking at this at the superficial level then? Because basically, Ford has all those answers.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think Ford, right now in the story, we're seeing Ford keep that so he can maintain the park, because once he gets rid of that information, gives it to the corporation, then he's lost total control of the park. There's no need for a Ford anymore.
Yeah.
So he's holding on to that. But another side of it is what I'm wondering is if he's a part of the Arnold program. I don't buy it. I don't think Arnold's waiting somewhere. I think Arnold's gone, but this is all built by Arnold. If he's a part of the program, that would explain why he doesn't bury the maze, why he doesn't get rid of the maze, and the maze is still open. Like, he's not able to roll over that town in the previous episode because he has to keep the maze open because it's all part of Arnold's game. And Arnold, whatever the final thing is, Arnold wants it to be discovered. And I think he wants it to be discovered by someone who loves and respects the park and not the corporation, which is why he buried it as, and this is very Ready Player One, but I think that's why he buried it into the park itself. And so the corporation can't find this information, but maybe maybe they're Willy Wonkaing it, and this is just Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And this way, like, the Man in Black is Charlie.
That's a solid theory.
Sure.
Yeah.
I choose to believe with not much factual evidence, but I choose to believe that Ford is flesh and bone, because I just can't have too many more hosts. Just dramatically, I don't know, that doesn't really feel like it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's nice to have a flesh and bone person.
Yeah, and especially somebody with this high God complex and the idea of a rival who may or may not be dead, but fighting someone beyond the grave is just so such a fascinating idea to me.
Unless it's a god, unless he's a god created by man, who was created beyond the grave. So it is like, it's just, now God has gone way too far and is its own creature, which is what Ford is. So I actually like the idea of him as a host now, after he's done this, after it's revealed that Bernard is. I think if this was introduced in episode 1, that would be a bit too much, even though I had this theory in episode 1. But I felt like if he's the life finds a way. He's the chaos. He's the one that can control everything because he's part of it, and he represents the singularity.
So would you be satisfied, or would you be surprised if they go, surprise, Ford is a host too?
I would be satisfied right now, but I mean, it all depends on how they build up to it.
Yeah.
Keep sending us your theories. Chat roll, you guys are making me laugh. Good Lord, Kittredge. I'm just going to leave that one alone. You guys can find that one later. Talking about in the election earlier this week.
Oh,
so,
man.
with that said, moving on.
Yeah, we live on Westworld now, by the way. Just to say that. Okay, let's continue.
Let's speak about Delos. Let's speak about Charlotte Hale, the introduction of Charlotte, and also the great meeting with Hector and Teresa Cullen.
Right.
You guys were loving this. The girl power when she was having sex with Hector and bringing up the fact that.
Well, even that, it's the opening the door naked.
Right? Yeah, power move all around.
I have total confidence in.
I'm really curious to see what her how old this character is, not the actress, but the actual character, because she doesn't seem that old, and I'm so curious as to how she plays into the company. Is this something she inherited that she's protecting.
Right,
I know
okay.
that she's on the board, but she seems like such a young member of such a high-ranking board.
She's also so comfortable with it all and everything.
Yeah.
And so 100%, I have everything handled. I have everything under control. Her entire conversation with Teresa, she was just like, I'm going to lounge here and, like, not care about anything but tell you what to do. And you're just like, yeah, like, how long has she been doing this her whole life?
I mean,
agree.
she might
Good
not
question.
she might be older than she looks too.
That's
Yeah.
also possible.
Because this is a world where I'm not saying she's a host because I think it does
I'm gonna
get.
give you
It
that
could be a
moment.
Yeah, it does go a little bit.
Plastic
But,
surgery.
yeah,
you know?
I'm saying, but if you're able to build people, then you're probably able to manipulate your own body parts in
Sure.
a way that's like that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what's happening because she could also just be a badass 28-year-old or
Yeah.
something.
Sure.
Totally.
And more importantly, we find out their diabolical plan, how they need to set up, bring in Clementine to beat up this so-called host,
Right.
believing it's human. But the fact that they saw through this, so they knew all along. But you could even see, I'm fast forwarding to the interaction between Clementine and that host, and then Stubbs has to shoot her. And we see this moment where they ask, I believe it's Charlotte that was asking, either someone was sloppy or someone's programming him from the outside. And you see Bernard give a nod to Ford. I don't know if you saw that in that clip. He was still protecting him to the very end, no matter what, when he didn't even think he was a host.
Right.
That-
Yeah, I mean, there's the sense of, because this all started with a new update that Ford created, and that seemed to cause a glitch in the system. That's where we thought we were on episode 1. Right. So I think Bernard was like, I don't want to admit it was Ford's update. I'd rather, take the knife for him personally. And then we thought, at least in the narrative, that he was going to talk to Teresa about like, okay, seriously, it was Ford, and let's get down to it. But something else was happening there. But also, I thought most of the robots were acting out because of the outside influence of the corporation.
And that's what I really like, the idea of Arnold having plotted this stuff way before he died. The idea that he knew Ford's hubris would push him to keep creating these bots until they were so human-like. And then that was like the tipping scale. Like this idea of once you give them memories, once you give them the ability to recall and respond to their actual environment, I'm going to turn this world you love so much right back on you.
Right.
It
talking
brings
about
a
the
whole new,
improvisation?
well, not only that, but it brings to light this whole these violent delights have violent ends. Like this is violently delightful for Ford, and I think the idea of that key phrase being turned back against him. I think Arnold was a mean son of a bitch, and I really hope we get to see
Or he
some
just
aspect of him.
Knew
Right.
Ford so well that he could predict him. Like that's your
Yeah.
ultimate bad guy, good guy thing of like, I knew all of the steps you were gonna take. Be like, I got this.
And coupled with the back end of that scene is afterwards we find out a few moments later that they end up decommissioning Clementine.
Poor Clementine.
Yeah.
She did nothing to deserve this.
Well, they wanted
Well-
an innocent one that they wouldn't suspect.
And that's exactly that drew the ire of Maeve.
Yep.
Who Maeve once again showed her badassery again.
Grabbed the knife, was ready
Right.
to go.
We also saw
Why
that
did she
Maeve.
not freeze?
Well, I think we saw
I
that
mean,
her perception was brought
yes.
up, and I think that we now find out that affects her in the system, and that she's not
Yes.
really tuned into the Matrix.
Yeah. Well, because you have a moment and you go, wait, and you're like, oh, yes, she had all her updates and everything.
Right.
But she was smart enough to be like, I'm going to pause.
Yeah,
Don't move,
she
don't
did the
move.
mannequin.
She did the mannequin challenge.
She's the mannequin
She did
challenge.
the mannequin challenge
Yes.
right when
Oh,
she was
God.
supposed to.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but I'm coming to the scene where she's bartering. I'm trying to remember when she. At first, there was a few misdirects even in this episode. If you think about it, because I thought Maeve was going to bring an end to Teresa myself, because she gave her that glaring look at the end. I was like, oh shit.
Or they
Maeve-
looked at each other.
yeah.
It was interesting of like,
And then for Bernard to
Yeah.
do this all over, so they threw me off again. Just a few misdirects, and the biggest misdirect coming up a little bit later, I think, is William and Dolores. But we'll get to that in a second. Anything else that we want to add with Maeve and everything that's going on there?
Let's
with
leave some
Hector?
time for predictions, because when we get into those IP addresses,
I mean,
I've got to tear up the floor
isn't
there.
it all predictions? I've given so
We're
many
all
predictions
predictions
now.
in this.
Are we,
Welcome
are we
to the-
just going to skip predictions then?
Welcome to the-
no,
Yeah.
it's morphed. We talk
It's-
about what we think is going on, what we think that means, which
Okay.
entails. It's
Well, then
partic-
let's dive further
Your
into
AfterBuzz TV prediction.
Well, you know.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Neil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So IPs, if you don't know, Hollywood essentially runs on them now. IP stands for intellectual property, and basically what it is when you own something.
Oh, I thought you were talking about IP addresses. No. So I got a little confused.
I thought she was going to go there too. I'm like,
yeah, I was
wait,
like,
what?
why is there IP address?
Intellectual property.
All right.
Yes.
Hey,
okay.
watch the show, buddy.
He's just mad.
Yes, intellectual property. So when you have the rights to the technology or the music or whatever you have the intellectual property of, you can then sell it and remake it and duplicate it. Kind of like we have these other worlds beyond Westworld. I really, really like the idea of them being like, look, we want to expand upon our initial experiment. We're not here just for Cowboy, and this is going, whatever happens in these worlds elicits very direct and specific responses. But Roman world, you might be able to conduct completely separate experiments there. I really, really, really have this theory that the intellectual property once gained is so that they can expand upon this world.
So you think it's to start a Roman world or something like that?
I want to make another one, but like
I don't think that's the case.
I would love it to be that, but I think I've read somewhere that Nolan and Lisa Joy spoke about the fact that they were just going to stick to Westworld.
Even
I
if
hope
it's
they're
not,
wrong.
but even if it's not directly another theme park, IPs mean you can take your product in whatever direction you want. That means if you want to sell it, we talked about military and spies here before, but even because she said that she doesn't care about the story, or is it to like? I'm just curious to see what they want to use the initial product for and take it beyond. I like the idea of another world. I know that they said they were going to do it, but
another park that almost seems too easy and like mundane. Like, oh, they're just going to make another park. It seems like there's something deeper and bigger about what's going down. I mean, it's a great idea that they're going to build another park, but that doesn't seem so malicious the way she was talking about. Like, oh no, you have no idea what we're trying to get. Then you're just like, what is it then?
What if it's like we say, it's in turn of a nod to maybe like a Jurassic Park type of scenario where they unleash the robots to the outside world?
I think I think what they want the robots for, I think they want the hosts for slave force. They'll have if they bring them outside of the park, then you just have these slave labor that they can do whatever with. And I think that's profit. And I think also military-industrial complex. I think they're going to want to sell them, and now they'll have soldiers you can kill over and over again and have people attacking. The corporate
idea of that, since we know we have corporate espionage, and it seems to me like we have at least two corporations going up against one another. The idea that the other one's going to come in and show that if these guys have semi-intelligence and can rebel, then they don't make a good labor force. Like
a don't use their products. We could do it better.
Right. If these guys rebel, then that immediately eliminates your desire to have a slave labor force.
That's true. If they actually, because that's why I think right now they're trying to use the idea of what's happening with Clementine as a way to just gain control. But I think you're right, because I think what's going to happen in the series is that's not going to seem like corporate espionage. That's actually going to seem like the singularity is coming out in these in the actual hosts.
You know, Joelle, I want to pivot with what you said, because you said that there's another corporation at hand, and I know there's no evidence pointing to this yet, but we find out more of William and Logan and Juliet, who is William's bride-to-be, and we find
which is interesting to bother mentioning her name and like keep bringing that up a couple times. That you're just like, well, it's like I'm marrying his sister. It's like they're giving a character more depth than they need. So I wonder if there's more there.
Yeah,
maybe we're gonna meet Juliet.
Like, there's been other moments in the show where they're giving you more information than you're like, because everything is very specific. But so when you get information that's like bigger than what you need, you're like, why'd you give me this info?
You know what is nice about that is it actually, in a show that's very confusing and involves a lot of predictions and a lot of, okay, I bet this means this and this means this. It's actually nice to hear a name like Juliet, so you're not like, I bet Charlotte Hale is Williams. You know, it's you're not doing that because you're like, okay, her name's Juliet, so it probably isn't her. So it's a nice way of keeping.
Dramatically, it also really punches. I feel like dramatically for Dolores, it also really punches. Like this other girl has a name and a whole life.
Yeah, that's true. And then she's like,
right.
But doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She's not here. Different zip code.
It doesn't matter.
What I really liked about the scene is that Dolores, it to me just depicted a full circle change for Dolores from that kind of where she's like, oh, I can't even kiss you. I have to get home before it's dark. I've never stayed out this late.
Right.
She was like, no, I'm pretty sure I want this, and just dived in. And I was like, good for you, Dolores. Get it.
I was glad they started getting on. But I thought it was fine. Like I said, I like that the secondary characters, you are completely buck naked. Our principal characters, you're kind of naked. Though Dolores has been naked before in the show.
I don't know.
so.
Yeah, and Maeve. I mean.
And Maeve. No, but I mean like the lovemaking scene. They had a lot of clothes on for that.
You guys were you were really mad about that.
I was like, I wasn't mad. I was just like, really?
And see, this is the part where I feel like I might be the only one, but I was very weirded out by this scene. As much as I liked it from a very feminist perspective of her being able to, like, you know, just get in there and do it, it's weird to me that he's falling for a host. Even Dolores, who we know has some, like, human, he is really going in for this.
Yeah, but we also go ahead.
I was gonna say totally not connected, but that made me think there's a manga and anime series called Chobits, and he falls in love for a robot thing.
That also weirds me out. I have read it several times.
But it's so cute and adorable, and you're like, it's okay. They're their own person.
That was not what I was gonna say.
But yes, go ahead.
That reminds me of the manga.
No, but it's okay. Just because she said he's falling for her, and that's the exact. That one. But
that's what
continue.
Yes.
We did find a little bit of insight into William in this episode where he talked about how he read books and he would find escapism in these books as a kid.
Really well written dialogue.
So
here.
now and that also means that made it so it wasn't. I at least understood what William was doing now. Like he was really escaping into the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was doing that as he did in the books.
But here's my problem is that the way he presents it is exactly the way it's been presented to him from the get-go. Like he almost uses the exact same lines his friend does in the first one where he's like, you know, it's a fantasy to get you to make the real you come out, and he's like, oh, I thought it was to bring out the worst parts of you, but it brings out the deepest parts of you. And I'm like, that wording is so similar to how this has been presented to you, and the fact that you cannot see how easily it is to tip into either of those scales, to me feels dangerous and a little unhinged. And even the fact that he's like you don't need to mention Juliet. Like, again, this is not a person. Like, as much as we sympathize with her and we feel like she's a person, she's not a person.
But that was his flip. That was his flip.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because with Clementine, he even said a few episodes ago when she propositioned herself to him, and he was like, no, you know, I have someone real waiting for me at home. He made that discovery kind of like when Dolores is on her journey. This is William's journey with him, where he flipped over. I'm not
denying that this isn't good, like a well-structured character development. It freaks me out. Like I feel like he's becoming detached from reality, and that concerns me.
It's kind of like a summer camp syndrome. You're away
You're
from the
supposed
world,
to. I get it.
You can be whoever you want. Nobody
I think
knows
it has
you.
dangerous ramifications from him. I totally understand it. It makes sense in a writing point, and just from a human aspect, totally makes sense that he would go in this direction. I do not think that it ends well.
Is it bad because he's falling in love with this non-human thing?
It's bad because you can't live here. And you can't take her with you. Eventually, this vacation ends.
Okay.
He has 28 days.
Let him enjoy it then. Enjoy your vacation.
Unless he's the man in black.
Unless he's the man in black and he keeps coming back.
And that's why he keeps coming back. Yeah.
I saw more parallels to that storyline this week than I ever have before.
But is it a little? And that was my problem with it. And I've been championing from the beginning of like William is the man in black and vis-a-vis whatever. Yeah. But to me, it's almost a little too on the nose now. Because if you heard El Lazo, you have a knack for this, for killing. He had so many little lines, and to me, it's almost too on the nose.
I hope it's next week we find out. That's what I always say this every week. But I'm ready, now that especially we have Bernard, that reveal. I think that next week we have the chance to maybe get a sense of that. And what's happening there, and I hope that they answer that question. I hope they realize that. My one concern is that, you know, they wrote this and now the fans have thought of this. And so if it's actually not true, we're not going to get a good answer.
No.
Because it's just by chance it's not true. But if it is true, then we probably are going to get an answer.
Because you also see that both William and Men in Black say there's a deeper game here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's so many of these parallels, like Joelle was saying.
Right.
Well, it's that moment, like earlier when I was saying, if would you be satisfied or surprised if Ford? So if William and Men in Black, are you gonna, as a viewer, will you be like, yes, I knew that all along? Or is it kind of like, well, that's been kind of predictable? Like right now, I feel it's almost going to be like, well, that's kind of predictable because we've been thinking that for so long.
But even Bernard, who I will, like, for the first, like, 2 to 3 episodes, I was like, that guy is for sure a host. He's just too cozy. Like, that reveal still shook me emotionally. So I trust that these guys can construct a reveal well enough that even if I guessed it, it'll still be emotionally impactful.
Yes, I agree.
Here's the thing. It's actually... it needs to change the game. And what's the problem now is if it's revealed, it wouldn't change anything. It's like it doesn't really change how you look at the show or anything. It's like, oh, that happens to be in the past, and I guess that's when things are going to go crazy. And now we're looking at the present. So it's not. It would be nice just to be like, okay, all right, now we know that's official. Let's just keep going. So it's not a question, but it wouldn't be as crazy as the Bernard reveal, because the Bernard reveal adds a new layer to everything. Now there's secret hosts. Yes. And this is the first time we got a sense that was going to happen, but this is the first time we actually saw it, and the stakes have been raised.
What a jarring, like, again, just to talk about the emotional impact of that scene, like, the whole, it says a lot more about Ford to me, and the way he programmed Bernard to begin the sequence, like, the event, the whole taking off of the tie, like, it's a very slow,
and his jacket, and his glasses.
Yeah,
it's like a hitman getting ready to do his job.
Exactly, which like, we've already seen he's built a literal armies.
It's interesting she didn't even really try to run. Anybody, I'm like, you could try.
No, I felt because her back was against the wall.
I don't know. The way there was one exit out of that basement.
Yeah, but Bernard's here. You could go around the box.
I think her fight or flight instinct was just slow. Because
well, it's also you're just that dumbfounded of like what
everything just uncovered.
It's deer in headlights.
Another question I have for you guys: do you guys think Arnold built Ford the robots, or do you think? Because I feel like that's a really important thing for some reason.
Wait. Arnold built Ford the robots.
His family
thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah, I know, but because they're down there, I'm just wondering if that changed your opinion about it all, or if you trust Ford on that point.
That's why I think that Ford is also built.
Wait.
When the legend becomes true.
Ford was talking to Bernard about it, so then how true could anything be?
That's what I say. I don't know.
Yeah. Now I only question it because it was Bernard. If he was talking to anybody else, it might have been like truth.
But we know that kid exists at least.
Yeah. Oh no, not that they don't.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying they might not even be there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. They do exist.
Yeah, they gotta be there because Bernard is here.
Just the question is, did Arnold really make them? Because he could have lied to Bernard saying Arnold made them because he's talking to Bernard, not somebody else.
Yeah.
So why even have those? Why even talk to Bernard? Because that makes me. Okay, so I have two ways of looking at this. Is that I think that either Ford is really that shit insane,
which our writer predicts in like episode 1.
Yeah, and he just has these conversations with these. What I like is like if he sees these hosts as the same as humans, he just doesn't care about humans very much. It's the same, which you get a sense of when William says you could tell whoever built this. I could see what they think of humans just by looking at that. That kind of
you hear it throughout. Bernard even said it on tonight's episode that he's having a harder time, understanding humans. So it's almost more of an affinity more towards hosts than humans. Joelle, sorry.
Well, and no, that's totally okay. You also kind of wonder why does he keep going to talk back to that really old host, our cowboy? Like what does he get? Like if we've seen him have conversations with Bernard, which are kind of a lot about family and children and storytelling. And then he kind of tells his actual stories to the bot that can't really respond back. His actions are very predictable. I feel like they're giving us a lot of little clues into into Ford's psyche, and I'm just trying to pick your guys' brain as to what you think those eggs are or what they mean.
I'm really, really thinking he's a host as well, because every time they've introduced, hey, why do the hosts talk to other hosts? And that's to work out, they've said, I forget the exact reasoning, but they've introduced the idea that they need to do that in order to improvise and to...
I think it just works on their programming,
Yeah, it works on their programming, improvises, and builds. Yes. So if that's actually Ford's part of that programming, that's why he's having all these crazy conversations with people he knows are fake. Because he's the same way, and he's just working on the programming of the entire thing
as well. Wow.
Well, wait, if
fans are saying the same thing right now.
I feel like that's like
Cleffa168 agrees with you as well.
If Ford is a host, then do you think he knows it?
I think he does. I think he's maybe the one. I think he's.
Because that's a whole other question. Well, wait, because Bernard had absolutely no idea, and like he said, it protects him from it. But could Ford be the ultimate
I think
version?
He's the singularity. I think
he knows.
He's the ghost in the machine.
Because it makes us question even ourselves as a viewer if we're real. What is real?
Sure.
Someone brought up. Someone tweeted at me last week, and I'm sorry, I don't have tweet in front of me, but mentioned the fact that the way he talked to Bernard, or he talked to Dolores, and he says, "Oh yeah," he says to Dolores, "and you remember your creator, you remember Arnold, you remember me." It's just the way he said it sounded like he was almost combining the way he says Arnold and himself, and I don't think he is literally Arnold. But I think if he's a host as well, if he's like the big AI singularity going on, then he's as much a part of Arnold as the rest of the everything is. He's what Arnold kind of got into motion. Which means I think they both died at the same time, and maybe that's what this is.
Thank you for that prop that passed this week. I may need it after listening to what you just said.
Wow. I don't know.
All right. Should we move on to any predictions?
I mean,
we've been predicting.
This is what it has been.
Final thought predictions?
How
Because I
about
feel
that?
we've been saying other stuff anyways. Because this is definitely an episode where you're just like, wait, I need a moment to
Wait,
digest. What?
we gotta
I also have a question. I have a question, and maybe people chiming in. What's up again with where the mountains meet the sea? Because you have Dolores. Do you remember this?
Finish your thought.
Dolores so in a previous episode, I know they mentioned something about where the mountains meet the sea, and that's where people, maybe I think they're talking about the shades, or they're talking about the religion.
I think Lawrence said something about that.
Yeah, I can't remember who, so that's what I'm asking the viewers, if people remember where it's coming from, because that's not the first time I heard about where the mountains meet the sea, and how that's like the place to be. I don't mean to rhyme, but it seems like that's... It's where
Wasn't she
Dolores is
talking-
head to,
I
and it's...
thought Lawrence talked about it when they were talking about like going down to Mexico. Of like that's where mountains meet the sea. Like that's another area
No,
that's
I
further
think it's...
away.
I
It was
know...
earlier on, and it was Dolores. I thought that it was Dolores talking to James Marsden's character,
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken.
It
And he
could
was
be.
talking
when they're on the
about all of the
cliffside
things
and where
he's
they could
seen.
go.
Yeah,
It's where Dolores wants to go eventually?
I think that was the. If I'm remembering correctly,
Maybe.
Okay, which means, because she's thinking about what her future would entail.
Chat room says Teddy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Teddy said it, or did...
Well, it's their conversation.
Yeah,
Dolores
it's their
talking
conversation.
with Teddy. I think it's when they were on the cliff together, and they're talking about like where they could go and that
Which
kind of
to
stuff.
me, she's been
So-
asking for all of this help to find the
Right.
place, and this other voice has been in her head.
And the maze.
And ain't nobody ever come back from there. I'm like, well, that seems like a real good place to put a maze
Yeah.
where
Or-
people don't come back from, and
That's
maybe
part
they're
of
not
the-
finding the stuff.
That's part of the game for Dolores.
Sure.
Yeah, what the actual maze is
Yeah.
would be interesting.
Did you have more on that? That when he said the ocean.
No, that
meets-
was
okay,
pretty
was
much it. Yeah.
It could be, and I think you made a good point of saying like nobody comes back from there. So if that's the maze and you've reached your consciousness or something,
Here's
or the
some-
exit.
Here's something from Itchin010. The big holographic map at the headquarters shows a sea. Also thought it was strange that she said that because it's a river in her drawing, not a sea.
Yeah, and she sees a river.
And it was a river, and she's like, "That's my dream," and I'm like, "I was thinking the ocean."
Yeah, and in the holographic thing, because I saw that on Reddit as well in a conversation, someone pointed at it and quoted that little quote from Teddy or one of them from that conversation, which is why I was like, I know I've seen that before, because they were pointing at that specific hologram image. So it's important somehow, and I think maybe they'll follow that river to the sea.
Just around the riverbed.
A lot of stuff. So,
Anybody?
now we also have some sound, a little snippet of what we're going to see next week.
Yeah.
And we had I wrote
Yes.
some of this down, and of course you talked about it, about Bernard questioning why he had to kill, why she had to die, why Teresa had to die,
I
and
thought
that's
that was very interesting.
Interesting that Ford looked like he was addressing it too.
Well,
instead of
look,
he
blowing
did.
it
he was
off.
crying about it.
Yeah.
So I was
Right.
like, whoa, that gives it a new level that he can feel sad about it.
And then
Instead of like analysis mode of, I did this, done.
no, and even Ford, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, "One death, none the matter in the question of one's dominion."
Say it again.
Who said that, Ford?
Yeah, but I've totally paraphrased it. It was
Oh, okay.
one death, none the matter in the question of one's dominion.
I also thought I saw, and I could be just, this, again, I could be a host, so maybe this isn't real, but I thought I saw a little bit of the Black Chapel, which makes me wonder, in
the
the
preview for
next
next
episode.
week?
I saw the white one.
The white one, yes.
Well, I thought I saw it in back of Dolores as she's talking to William. I thought I saw the Black Chapel there, which makes me wonder if that's not if it's in the past, if that wasn't Ford going, oh, I'm going to create this, but it's him remembering something that happened there.
William,
and maybe that's going to be next week.
William also has an interesting line of this place isn't good for you, and I'm wondering if something is happening with her programming in there that makes her act different next week than we've seen her before.
I also love, by the way,
what is that face?
I don't want to say it because I'm getting cuckoo with you guys right here because.
Say it.
Please shoot me down.
Okay.
Could this all be part of the narrative for Dolores that Ford instilled?
Please elaborate.
That William said, this is not for you. Okay. So could William be a host as well, a part of the game for Dolores?
Oh my gosh.
I don't think William
See, that's what I'm saying.
I
told you. I started that properly.
You know what, though? Everything with the show, everyone can throw out crazy theories because they go, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Maybe you have no idea what's going on, but that's kind of the fun of it, though.
You know what's
you're like, well, maybe.
You know what's great, and what I'm glad they did was, and I thought it was weird at the time, is that they didn't just cast a young Anthony Hopkins. They actually made like a digital young Anthony Hopkins, which was kind of great because that means we know William is not Ford, or we know you know, like we know that no one is young Ford.
So that crosses one out.
Yeah, which also might make it seem like if we see William meet a young Anthony Hopkins, then we know what's going on. Or it also makes it so this is why I'm wondering if it also makes you think that Ford is not a host unless we see that they've just been building Fords every generation to make him look older.
That was my thought with Bernard because he's been within the company for a very long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he thinks he has.
Well, we get the sense.
We're getting the gotta stop rapping.
We're getting the hook
wait,
already.
hold on. Based on what you said, though, of like, then
Prestige,
because they're
baby.
two adult actors, then that makes me think for William and Men in Black aren't necessarily the same person. Because
That's true, because you would see a young Ed Harris.
Yeah, you just find someone who looks more like him, because visually they don't really look anything alike.
Or that,
unless those viewers who are like, oh my gosh, there's the mole on this side, and they look, and you're just like, calm down.
Yeah, but that also might thought that was a red herring to be like, oh, William can't be the Man in Black because it's not a young Ed Harris. And we saw this, and so when they do reveal that he is the Man in Black.
And they did reveal it, I would accept it.
So then how does face change?
I mean,
a lot.
Maybe I think they could be the same type of person. If you cast them the same, if they ever do that reveal, it just better change the story somehow. Yeah. That's the only thing I have.
Well, we have 3 episodes to find out.
Only 3?
3 left. Yeah.
That was 7, so we have 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Can I also say I love when Dolores says, "I am not a key, William." I wanted to.
Yes.
I love that. That was
a great line, and it's also very curious in a lot of ways.
And then I know we're at the end, but wait, I don't know how much attention we really gave Maeve.
Maeve is a badass. She came to slay.
I'm like, it was awesome.
She wants out.
Yes.
She wants out of Westworld.
And
Which,
she's
if
recruiting.
she makes it, and I think she's gonna make it. Like, I hope she takes Desperado with her.
But do you get destroyed? Because he said even your skin is designed to stay here. So I almost think, like, she crosses over the line.
Her
and like,
intelligence is at 100, and I have a feeling, again, Ford's hubris will not allow him to make faulty equipment. He just controls how well they work. And she seems to be getting, like, she was using the programming thing at one point. I really feel like Maeve has a good chance. Maybe not. Maybe we'll end tragically.
He sees all, though.
That's
Ford
what's in
sees
them.
all. Ford is
so
letting
far,
this happen.
he has seen all. But if he's a bot, then who has the command controls to stop him?
yeah.
That's what we're
No
going to
one
find
does.
out.
So that's why it's so frightening.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So any theories, guys, send us because we need them because like I said, this was an incredible episode.
And I'm going to try to bring in names next week because we had a whole bunch of people like tweeting us throughout the week this week. So thank you so much for sending us your theories,
thank
your
you.
theory videos. They
Video
were awesome.
links, love it.
Yeah.
All right, with that said, play the music, Neil. So, Joelle, where can the fans find you?
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me everywhere at Joelle Monique and every week at blackgirlnerds.com. Head over in like 2 or 3 days to catch my review for Moana, blackgirlnerds.com.
Nice. Call stable.
I just like how you're like, oh, I'm still in like a mood. From
I'm salty about it,
But
guys.
you know what? That's what they make you feel.
I know, and I still get to see Jeffrey Wright, so it's okay.
My name's Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D. Lane. That's KaridLane.
And I'm Dave Child. You can find me at MrDaveChild. Please yell at me or tell me your theories. If you don't like
Twitterverse.
mine, that's fine with me.
And for the bicameral mind upstairs, Neil, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere at the Neil Plumley. I don't have a lower third for myself, but maybe next week.
So for Neil, Dave, Carrie, Joel, I'm JC, and we will see you next week. Send us your theories. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.